On January 30th, the day after the announcement of the deployment of military force in Eastern Europe, British Foreign Secretary Liz Truss told the BBC that his country was planning to extend the blockade on Russia in the event of an attack on Ukraine, under which various Russian financial and energy companies will also be. He says there is a strong possibility of Russian aggression. That is why they are doing their utmost to create deterrence as well as diplomacy in the face of Russian aggression, he said. In another interview with Sky News, he did not rule out the possibility of seizing the assets of Russian billionaires in Britain. The Washington Post says Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky is not as sure about the Russian attack as the United States and Britain are. According to Zelensky, Russia is trying to apply psychological pressure. He forbade the Western nations to spread terror, because it is hurting the Ukrainian economy. On the other hand, NATO member states France, Germany and Norway think that a concession will be found through diplomacy. On the same day, Nikolai Patrushev, the head of the Russian Security Council, ruled out a Russian attack on Ukraine, saying that Russia did not want a war. Disagreements between Western nations over the possibility of a Russian attack are now clear. Among the West, only the United States and Britain have ordered the evacuation of the families of their embassy officials in Ukraine. Britain's exit from the EU in the midst of NATO is quite different from the rest of Europe. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is expected to hold talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin in a week's time, and it has been announced that he will travel to countries in the region. Foreign Minister Truss will also visit Russia and Ukraine. The British government is preparing to deploy the Prince of Wales aircraft carrier on short notice. However, Foreign Secretary Truss said it was unlikely that British troops would be involved in a direct war against Russia. They have trained 20,000 Ukrainian troops in counter-attacks, provided anti-tank missiles, and assisted the country's navy. There are currently 900 British troops in Eastern Europe, 150 in Poland and 100 in Ukraine for training. In addition to the deployment of artillery rockets in the Baltic state of Estonia, Britain has sent 2 warships to the Black Sea. British warplanes have been sent to secure the airspace of Romania and Bulgaria. Prime Minister Johnson says the decision to deploy additional troops to Eastern Europe is aimed at keeping Britain's commitment to the Nordic and Baltic allies. Canada is on the same page as Britain. Both countries want to stand up to Russia in upholding international law. In other words, Canada, like Britain, is pursuing Western interests, not national interests. Although Europe is divided, there is considerable support for Ukraine in Canada. Justin Trudeau's Liberal government in Canada is providing training assistance to Ukraine, even if it does not provide arms. On January 26, Prime Minister Trudeau announced that 60 more people would soon join the 200 Canadian troops serving as trainers in Ukraine under Operation Unifier. He said after a meeting with his cabinet that the number of troops could go up to 400. The Government of Canada is providing Ukraine with bulletproof jackets, metal detectors, thermal binoculars, laser range finders, surveillance technology and medical equipment. The Canadian Electronic Intelligence Agency, the communications security establishment, is also providing electronic and cybersecurity assistance to Ukraine. The value of these grants is approximately $200 million. In addition to providing $39 million in humanitarian assistance and $94 million in loans to Ukraine, Canada has also increased diplomatic assistance. Canada's CBC News reports that so far the United States and Britain, as well as the small Baltic states of Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia, have provided arms to Ukraine. Opposition Conservatives have been pushing for Ukraine to be given arms. They also demanded that the government of former Prime Minister Stephen Harper, which had been providing satellite imagery to Ukraine since 2014, resume its assistance. The Ukrainian World Congress, a body representing 1.3 million Ukrainians living in Canada, is also lobbying for arms. Amid the tensions in Ukraine, U.S. President Joe Biden will hold talks with Emir of Qatar Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. The aim is to supply gas to Europe as an alternative to Russia. In doing so, the United States seeks to reduce Europe's dependence on Russia for gas. Germany, which relies heavily on Russian gas, has called for a blockade on Russia over the Ukraine issue, but is not in favor of providing military assistance to Ukraine. While Britain and Canada are pursuing Western ideological goals, Germany is reluctant to pursue its national interests. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov called NATO's response ideologically motivated in an interview with state television. Lavrov spoke primarily about the ideological position of the United States, Britain, and Canada. Only small countries bordering Russia in Eastern Europe are with them. The major European powers, such as France and Germany, are reluctant to engage themselves directly. While the United States itself has left the Western ideology at the Kabul airport, it is only natural that the United States should not take part in a direct war for Ukraine. Britain also says it will not fight directly in Ukraine. However, the responsibility for defending the Western ideology on the Ukraine border lies with Britain and Canada.